Hello everyone, welcome back. It's Empyrion Galactic Survival episode 66. I'm Enigmius and today we're finishing off the underside of the Manta hover vessel build. We don't have a whole lot left to do, but there's definitely going to be some sculpting involved in some of the details. I edited out the largest of the mistakes that I made just because it was a very time-consuming thing to correct. It wasn't especially difficult, but certainly time-consuming, and now we're just kind of double-checking as we go to make sure that most of the things are lined up. We're still going to make a mistake. It's inevitable when we have so many little details that we're doing on two sides. Yes, there is a mirror mode for building. No, I don't use it. No, I don't have a good reason for not using it, but that's just the way it works out. The primary goal here for this episode is to get this all done with the underside, get the hover engines on, get the boosters on, and put ourselves in a position so that for the next episode we can have the ship right side up and we can continue with some of the details that will provide the most interest, the most visual interest for the ship up to this point, considering that everything that you're seeing me do now will eventually be so close to the ground and tucked underneath the ship that you probably won't see it very often. If you were to build the ship and kind of leave it on the ground and then take it out when you needed to go out, you wouldn't see a lot of this. So it seems maybe a little bit strange to be investing this much time in something that won't be seen, but I don't mind doing that because I'll know it's there. It's one of the crazy things that you hear people say, the craftsman's attitude. You know, nobody will ever see that mistake that you made or that shortcut that you took, but I'll know it's there. That's the thing, I guess, that we can say. I can't exactly call myself a craftsman when it comes to voxel building, but we can try, and we're actually getting some really good use out of some of the new blocks this time around to pull off some of the angles and some of the details, like you can see right here, that would otherwise not be as easy, if even possible, with the previous blocks that we had available to us. So it's kind of nice to see that benefit filling in a little bit. You know, we see the new blocks and we say, okay, well, what exactly are we going to be able to do with that? And then we come across these situations where we're able to do some things that we couldn't have done before. It's a little bit gratifying in the sense that we're learning how to use them and get, you know, as much benefit out of them as we can. Now, right here is a mistake. What I'm doing right now, just filling this in straight across, because there's some sculpting. There's a little bit of angle work that I would have had to do closer to the back end of this strip of 45-degree blocks before I put in that strip of 45-degree blocks, and the consequence for not kind of double checking and making sure that I had everything done and instead just blocking in all of those blocks, blocking in the blocks, is that the hover engines, when we put them into their initial positions, aren't going to line up, and we're going to discover that we made a mistake, and then we're going to have to figure out exactly what that mistake was and correct it. But you can see we're at that point now where a lot of this is just filling things in, and I really like this part. I really like this part because after you've been doing all of this sculpting and detail work, sometimes it's very easy to kind of visualize the finished product until you actually put it together and see how it works out, and in this case I'm pretty happy with the way it's going. Now, this detail on the front here that we're about to put in place is perhaps the most apt demonstration of sculpting that I could have really put together. And it's not like I specifically designed this little front detail for that purpose of demonstrating sculpting, but it works out very, very well for that purpose. And basically what we're doing is we're setting up a detail that is only something that's in my mind, and then we place it and we realize that some things work and some things don't, so we have to make modifications as we go to find the things that are working and the things that aren't, and then ultimately end up with a finished product that we're happy with. So we try things, some of them don't work, some of them do. The ones that don't work, we kind of take a look at it and figure out what we would be happy with if we made certain changes. Could we be happy with it if we made certain changes, or do we have to go back and remove things and come at it from a different angle? All of these different kinds of things are a part of the building process, at least for me. Sometimes people ask me, like, do you have a written, like a drawn out diagram of what you plan on building and all this kind of thing when we start a new build? Absolutely not for me. Some people would. And if it works for them, then it's a fantastic solution. But for me, it's all basically just a general design idea that I have. And then as I'm building, I'm kind of filling in the gaps and all the details and things of that nature, because I can't visualize things in that much detail to be able to kind of put it all down. Before we even start building, I kind of have to sort things out as we go. And it works for me. For the most part, I'm happy with most of my builds, to the extent that, I don't feel like I should just kind of bury them in a hole somewhere and forget about them forever. But at the same time, we end up in situations like this where it takes a little bit of time, and we place a few blocks and we remove them, and then we place a few more and we remove them. And eventually, we end up with something that resembles what we had in mind from the beginning, sometimes better, sometimes not so much, and then we leave it and we just kind of let it sit for a while. And if we like it, then we'll continue to like it. And if we don't like it, then we'll realize after a time that maybe we have a better idea and we can make some changes. The nice thing about this sort of game and the things that we build is that nothing is set in stone. We can always change it. If we decide today that we like it, but tomorrow it bothers us, we can just change it. That's really all it takes. And in this case, from that little detail that I put on the front, that sort of little cleft coming down, I realized the way that it came together on the front, we could do a little bit more detailing, and that's exactly what I'm doing now, is we're kind of filling that out, creating a little bit more detail that was previously unexpected. I hadn't planned on doing this, but it was just something that I noticed as we were finishing off that initial detail. So now we put it into place, and from that, we get a slightly more involved centerpiece for the front end of the hover vessel on the underside that we probably won't see very often, but I'm happy with it. And it comes together in a way that definitely was a little bit more fluid than I would have expected if I had have included this as part of the original design. So now we have that little cleft kind of bending around the front, and it comes time to put these wait a second, there's something up near the top towards the rings, and now we place the ones at the very edges, and we realize, wait a second, that doesn't fit there. There's a difference in the gap from side to side between the one on the left and the one on the right. And that's our first indication that we made a mistake when we put in all those 45-degree blocks. Is this little 22.5-degree slope leading to a single row of 45-degree blocks. And on the side here, we put 2 rows of 45-degree blocks without the 22.5-degree transition, and that's why we have to redo this whole stretch of blocks. Now, all of this footage that you're seeing was taken prior to patch 5.0. Patch 5.0, which I haven't even had a chance to try yet, has the option to remove blocks without stripping them down to their parts, so that you don't have to take them to a constructor to rebuild them. You can just remove them and then place them again, which I'm looking forward to messing around with. It'll save quite a lot of time. In this case, it was a quick fix. Here's an example where it would have been nice to be able to just remove it and replace it. We had to remove it, go reconstruct it, and now we're back placing it again. And in fact, we placed all the others. And now we're placing the boosters. So this is pretty much where we want it to be. I'm going to have to add some engines and some power and all those little details on the inside. We're going to take a closer look at those when I do the final versions of those additions. But for now, the goal is to get this guy flipped over. So that's what we're going to do for the next episode. We're going to have it flipped over, and we're going to be able to continue with the build. So if you want to be notified about that, you can always subscribe to my channel or follow me on social media. Links for social media are always in the information section below the video. Feel free to leave your comments and feedback. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.